You stride out of the living room, a bright little thought glowing over your head. Go get the scissors. Your foot lands in the kitchen. The thought snips clean at the door frame. Empty bubble. Blank face. One finger raised and gone. Why? You have stood exactly like this, frozen in a kitchen doorway, hand still on the frame, mouth half open, no idea why you came in. And by the end of this, you are going to see that blank moment completely differently. Not as your memory failing you, but as your brain doing one of the smartest things it does. If you do not want to keep missing why you do small things like this, subscribe. So there you are, patting your pockets of thought and finding nothing. And what do you do next? You blame yourself. You think, I'm getting old, I'm too scatty, too much screen time, too many tabs, brain like a sieve. A little gremlin pops up over your shoulder and it has a name tag. And the name tag says your bad memory. That gremlin has been following you around for years. Every lost errand, every name on the tip of your tongue, every walk into a room that ends in a shrug, you hand it all to the gremlin. Case closed. It's just me. I'm the problem. Here is the thing, though. The gremlin is innocent. The self-blame is pointed at the wrong culprit entirely. Because what if the problem isn't you at all? What if it's the door? To catch the door in the act, you have to be clever. And that's exactly what happened. Around a decade ago, in a lab at Notre Dame, a researcher named Gabriel Radvansky set out to trap this feeling and measure it. So picture yourself in a little experiment. You pick up an object from a table, say a colored wedge, a bright red one, and you carry it to another table across the way. Sometimes you walk straight across one big open room. Sometimes you walk the exact same distance, the very same number of steps, but on the way you pass through a doorway into a new room. And partway through, someone stops you and quizzes you. What are you carrying? What was on the table you left? That's the whole trick. Same object, same task, same distance walked. The only thing that changes sometimes is a single frame of wood you pass through. And in a moment, you're going to see the exact instant that door frame reaches up and snips your thought in half. So what happened? The people who walked through a doorway forgot more. Not dramatically more. No memory wiped clean. A small but reliable rise in the error rate, the kind of thing you can measure again and again. A few extra slips every time a door was involved. And here's why that is so strange. 0 extra meters. The walking distance was matched exactly. The people crossing the big open room took just as many steps, spent just as long on their feet. So it can't be that you got tired. It can't be that it simply took longer to get there. Nothing was added except the door frame itself. The boundary, not the trip. And it wasn't a one-off. It showed up whether the doorway was pixels on a screen or a real frame you could knock your shoulder on. In the virtual version, they sent people through buildings of up to 55 rooms, one after another like a long hotel corridor, and got the same result. The landmark paper stacked up 3 separate experiments, 3 separate stakeouts, each one catching the door doing the same quiet thing. And with every result, that gremlin on your shoulder gets a little smaller. So if it isn't your age, and it isn't the distance, what is it? Here's the reveal, and it changes everything. Your mind does not record your life as one long, endless take. It doesn't roll a single continuous film from the moment you wake up. Instead, quietly, constantly, it acts like a film editor. It cuts that endless stream into scenes, into discrete little chunks with a beginning and an end, chunks a researcher would call events. And a doorway happens to be one of the strongest, cleanest cut points there is. An event boundary. At that cut, your brain does something deliberate. It closes the scene you were just in. It files it away. And it loads up a fresh one for the new place you've just walked into. Picture yourself at an editing bench, holding a long strip of your own day, and a pair of scissors coming down and snipping it exactly at the drawing of the door, which means the blankness in the kitchen was never a leaky, aging, broken brain. It was the editor doing its job perfectly. The forgetting isn't a bug in a bad system. It's a feature of a very good one. But wait, if the editor closed the scene, where did your errand actually go? Because it doesn't feel misplaced, it feels gone. And this is the comforting part. It wasn't erased, it was filed, written on the last page of the room you left. That intention belonged to the living room's scene, and when the editor closed that scene to load the kitchen, your errand got archived along with it, tucked into a drawer marked living room, buried under all the new context of where you are now. And that is why, so often, walking back can bring it rushing back. You return to the living room, you reopen the folder, and there it sits. Scissors. You've flipped the book back a page. Now here's the twist that makes this more than a cute trick. The old obvious explanation was just context. You remember things best where you learned them, so a new room's cues simply don't match. And if that were the whole story, walking back should always fix it. But when they tested exactly that in the virtual study, sending people back through a second door into the original room, going back did not reliably restore the memory. Reopening the right folder and finding the page already stamped archived. So it isn't simple surroundings matching up. It's your brain actively slamming a chapter shut and filing it, whether or not you can ever stand in that spot again. So why would a brain be built to lose things on purpose? Here's the answer to the question that's been hanging over all of this. This filing is efficiency, not failure. Think about it. Almost everything that mattered in the living room genuinely does not matter in the kitchen. The show you paused, the cushion you moved, the thought about the laundry. Carrying all of it forward would clog you up. So the editor prunes. It protects you from lugging around a pile of dead context. That's what the forgetting is for. And doorways? Doorways are just the most literal version of a boundary. The same new chapter mechanism can fire at any meaningful change. A shift in the lighting. Switching from one task to another. Opening a fresh browser tab and blanking on what you meant to search. Even the big thresholds, a new job, a new city. Your mind chapters all of it. And here I owe you some honesty. The specific claim that doorways cause forgetting is shakier than the headlines make it sound. At least one careful set of experiments couldn't reproduce the doorway effect at all, except when they piled on extra memory load. Like a magic trick that works most nights, but on a different stage, sometimes just won't. So the sturdy truth here isn't the magic of doors, it's the deeper thing underneath. That your mind lives in events, in chapters, not in one unbroken take. That part is rock solid. It was never really about doors, and the reason the swap costs you anything at all comes down to how little you can hold at once. At any given moment, your working memory juggles only a handful of things fully loaded, roughly 3 to 5, about the number of grocery items you can keep in your head without writing them down. Cross a boundary, load a new scene, and something has to give up its slot. So in a moment, a few simple ways to keep an errand alive across the cut. Here they are. First, before you leave the room, say it out loud. Scissors, 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 all the way down the hall. Or just carry the object itself. Keep the goal actively loaded, and it survives the snip. Second, if it does vanish, walk back to where you formed it. It won't always work, but it often does, because you're reopening the folder. Third, and this is the good one, use the door on purpose. Cross a threshold deliberately to close a stressful scene and leave it behind you. Stand in the doorway, breathe the bad day out, and step through into a fresh chapter. And at moments you want to keep, pause at the boundary for a second and help the memory stick. So watch the whole thing run in one clean pass. Your intention forms in one room. You cross the threshold. The editor makes its cut. The old scene closes and gets filed. A fresh scene loads for the new place, and your errand sits waiting, archived one room back. A momentary dip while the model updates, a light flickering, not a blown fuse. The same quiet machine, firing over and over automatically all day long. And that gremlin on your shoulder, fully defeated. It was never your bad memory. It was your good editor. Because here's the last thing. The same silent editor that loses your scissors in a doorway is the one that turns the endless blur of being alive into a life you can actually remember. In rooms, in chapters, in befores and afters. That blank little moment in the doorway is the tiny visible cost of a mind that loves you enough to keep your whole story in order.